Hello, this is part 2, Wesley Thompson of YouTube, War on Stupidity on YouTube, and Wonder Man channel on YouTube. YouTube won't let me near it, but the channel seems to still be up, and West Truther, W-E-S-T-R-U-T-H-E-R, on Brighteon.com and on BitChute. The Wuhan China labs were set up to be the scapegoat for the outbreak. Now, folks, y'all need to understand this. Wuhan had the first biggest outbreak because 5G went online everywhere in Wuhan, China on December of 2019. During December, the COVID-19 outbreak began in Wuhan, China, where the 5G went online. Then Italy, France, all these other places where 5G went online early, that's where all of the major breakouts were, and that's where the major research on COVID was found. The same places it broke out is where the extensive research was supposed to be being conducted. The samples of two other viruses, COVC ZC45 and COVZ-XC21, came from the People's Liberation Army, who are advised by the United Nations and U.S. military. So these samples of these viruses are said to have been delivered by the workers of the United States and the United Nations military complex. And we are advised by the United Nations and the U.S. military and the CIA that these viruses come from some bats of Zhoushan, Z-H-O-U-S-H-A-N, and folks, that don't cut it with me. They blaming it on bats and blaming it on pigs. Now, how does bat and pig viruses? They blame it on innocent things. You're talking about innocent things. Man, there's something I wish I had time to tell you all about. But this Zhoushan is another scapegoat, and rabies is one of the few things that I know that is transmitted to humans from animals, or from humans to humans. Those viruses are the SARS viruses and other added cell structures that sort of mutate the SARS man-made virus, and they are all, except for rabies, man-made, and rabies possibly, I don't know the source where that came from, but man wants to blame animals for the diseases and the viruses and the toxic matter that is created by their own hand. They create toxic matter, then when it does something toxic, something else gets blamed besides the ones who created the toxins, folks. That's sick people to create poisons and toxins. Those people are sick. Man is the only species that destroys its own life support, its own habitat, its own environment, and all that lives within that habitat and that environment. Man is the only species that destroys and destroys and destroys. COVID was created from the viruses of SARS being manipulated and re-engineered. These people use their scientists to devise methods and ways of making you sick and killing you and getting your money. Population control. Shai Zhengeli, S-H-I-Z-H-E-N-G-L-I, a Chinese virologist, has been publishing stuff on SARS and COVID since 2003. They've been messing with this COVID virus since the late 1990s. Gates, Rockefeller, Goodpasture, they have repeated the 1918 Spanish flu virus. The same scenario is being repeated 100 years later and the Spanish flu was caused by military radio waves, and today Gates and Fauci and the John Hopkins and the WHO and like I said, Fauci, they have all repeated the cover-up of the military 5G frequencies with the cover-up that only those with open eyes can see and understand. The COVID-19 is a cloaking device to cover up the killing frequencies of 5G that thousands of scientists have now been warning the governments and everybody, all administrations, about the dangers to human and to animal life of 5G, to all life, actually, all life, insects, everything. This is radiation poisoning. What you need to understand is it's like hypoxia. The frequencies are poisoning and killing your cells. And then the COVID-19 is replicated artificially within your body by the use of frequencies. So your body will start producing COVID-19 once it gets you down to a point you have no iron, you're low on oxygen, you're low on water, everything else, because 5G destroys the iron that collects the oxygen and water molecules and sends them to your cells. 5G destroys your ability, your immune system. I'm very reasonably convinced that 5G, 6G, Gates and Trump vaccine will take over 50 million lives in the next 2 to 4 years. This is 50 million or more. A lot of people think it'll be 60, 75 million. But I believe they're going to end up with the COVID virus and the frequencies over the next 2 to 4 years. They're going to take 50 million lives from America, more than the normal death rates. The tabletop simulation of Event 201, hosted by Gates and Rockefeller and the Johns Hopkins, the same families that covered up the radiation poisoning of radio communications from 1906 to 1920 and the Spanish flu, are the same families that are using COVID-19 to cover up 5G and 6G and the military 60G. And that obviously agrees with the reptoids and their human servants and their reptilian reptoid DNA. And the same DNA found in humans on different levels as different blood type groups indicate this very same thing that I'm saying. Reptilian DNA found in humans. And the humans with higher content of reptilian DNA, they don't seem to be taken ill very much. These frequencies must be acceptable to the reptilian frequencies, to the reptoid frequencies. As in the highest ranked people of the knowledge of the known earth, as in the highest ranked people of the known earth are the Illuminati, the Ashkenazi, the closest DNA to reptoids and shapeshifters. I'm talking about a species, and some of the races and members of that species has enough brain power, enough intellect to transform their appearance in front of you. They can make themselves look like me or look like a good-looking movie star woman if they want to. I don't know how that's done, but the old werewolf movies and the Dracula movies and all of this stuff, it indicates exactly what this species is able to do. The surface excess on all continents and government, these Illuminati, these people, these reptoids, these hybrids, they have areas that they're centered and concentrated in, such as Switzerland, below the surface of Switzerland, and in among the people also. The surface excess is on all continents, and all governments are infiltrated with these reptilians. That's why we continue to keep going and beating up and killing and robbing everybody who ain't done anything to us. That's the way of the reptilian. Take, take, take. And they got humans who are bowing to them, doing service for them, to them, who are going and killing other humans. When people become demoralized, the truths of secrets kept from them and the obvious miseducation that has been taught them, these people don't seem to care about the truth of things when people like me are trying to tell you, trying to explain things to you and tell you things that are going on, and you don't care. You've been demoralized. It doesn't matter to you. It's not important. You've lost your sensitivity. You've lost your ability to use and to exercise critical thought process. Nothing funny about the military personnel and their equipment that will rattle your house windows or vibrate dust to fall from your ceilings when they come onto your streets and send shock waves over your senses and your nervous systems that will be on overload. Let me tell you something real quick. Trump will put the military on the U.S. Trump has declared a state of national emergency, and you know what that means. They can take your guns if they want to. Frequencies cause the common colds. People never kept saying, what causes colds? What causes colds? Well, you know when colds took off? They're the late 1800s and early 1900s. Before that, not very many colds, not much pneumonia, not hardly anything at all. But when they started with the radio frequencies, then television frequencies, then radar, then telephone, then Wi-Fi, and all this kind of stuff, people have been continuing to die because most people can't handle that kind of stuff. And you need to make sure that you have in your possession, and you take on a good regiment, Kali Sulph. That's KaliSulph, and ferrum, Ferrum, which is iron. You need to take Kali Sulph and iron, which will help fight back the cancer. Now, I'm going to tell you something about critical thought process. I'm going to have to do another part for this video, and I'm going into Bill Gates, the coronavirus, Innovio Pharmaceuticals, the Wistar Institute. I'm going into something important, but I want to tell y'all something that happened to me today. I mentioned in another video or two about having a 44 special stolen out of my house. Well, a brother of a neighbor came to live with him, and in his travel around with the bad guys around Poplar Bluff, Missouri, he told me he thought he might have located my stolen gun. But the guy wanted $500. So I gave him $650 and $50 bills. And he brought me back $600 in counterfeit $50 bills and said the guy didn't bring the gun, but they swapped my money for counterfeit 50s. Well, that same brother who has been talking to me and telling me that he's sorry and he wished he could do something about it and he's going to try to get a job and pay me back some money, because none of these people around here work. I worked for 56 years, but who cares? You don't care, do you? No. His brother, told his brother one day, I spoke to his brother in a nice way, and I said, I'm really bothered about this money. And his brother just immediately took the defensive and said, I told him, I said, I just can't shake it. I can't get it out of my head that I have been deceived and ripped off about this. He took the defensive real quick and said, well, don't F with my brother, because that's my blood. And if you F with him, you'll be Fing with me. So I just looked at him. I was sitting in his little pickup truck with him talking to him, and I turned and looked at him, and I just simply said, well, then now I know that if I decide that I have to do something, I've got two of you to deal with. And he said, get out of my truck. So I did. Then the guy turns around, tells people that I threatened him, which I did not. I did in a roundabout way, saying, well, if I decide to mess with your brother, then I know I've got to mess with you too. He started killing my cats. And then today, he's killed two of them with a semi-automatic .22 rifle. He baits them and then blows them up. I'll finish this in the next video.